You think systems collapse suddenly. They don't. Long before collapse, systems begin changing shape. Pressure accumulates, structure adapts, and eventually, the system becomes something else. You think systems disappear completely. They don't. They reorganize under pressure. This is ACHRONIC, a long-form documentary series about power, geography, and time. Not events, not heroes, not chronology, structures that outlast empires. Achronic large systems appear permanent, stable, continuous, defined. But permanence is mostly a visual illusion, because systems never remain structurally fixed for long. Pressure continuously reshapes them underneath visible continuity. Movement shifts, dependencies reorganize, old alignments weaken, and once enough relationships reorganize, the structure begins adapting around new conditions. Not suddenly, gradually. This is why systems rarely collapse in the way people imagine. The visible structure often survives long after the underlying organization has already changed. The symbols remain, the institutions remain, the infrastructure remains visible, the map still looks intact. But internally, the system is already becoming something else. Because systems do not resist pressure indefinitely, they reorganize around it. Every large structure accumulates stress over time. Geographic stress, structural stress, energetic stress, coordination stress. At first, these pressures appear manageable because adaptation hides transformation. The structure still appears recognizable, stable, functional, continuous. But underneath visible order, movement is already reorganizing itself. New paths emerge. Old alignments weaken. Dependencies begin shifting elsewhere. Trade reorganizes. Coordination reorganizes. Pressure reorganizes. And once movement reorganizes, systems begin changing shape around it. Not by decision, structurally. This is why dominant systems often appear stable while their internal organization is already transforming. Because systems preserve visible continuity longer than they preserve structural coherence. This creates the illusion of permanence. But permanence usually means slow adaptation hidden underneath familiar symbols. The structure remains visible, but the relationships sustaining it have already begun reorganizing. This is how systems survive pressure. They reshape themselves around it. Because systems survive through adaptation, not preservation. This is why flexibility becomes increasingly important inside large structures. Not flexibility of appearance. Adaptive flexibility. The ability to redirect movement, redistribute pressure, reorganize coordination, adapt dependency. Without that capacity, accumulated pressure eventually rigidifies the structure itself, and rigid systems struggle adapting once movement begins shifting elsewhere. At that stage, the structure still appears intact. The institutions still function. The infrastructure still functions. Coordination still appears operational. But internally, alignment has already weakened. Movement continues. Coordination continues. Infrastructure continues functioning. But continuity alone no longer guarantees coherence, because visible operation can survive longer than structural alignment underneath it. The structure still moves, but less coherently each year. This is why systems often become unstable when they attempt preserving structures that no longer align with underlying movement. Pressure continues accumulating, but the structure loses the ability to reorganize efficiently around it. At first, the instability appears minor, local, manageable, temporary, small delays, small inefficiencies, small coordination failures, nothing large enough to immediately threaten visible order. But over time, misalignment begins spreading through the structure itself, because pressure continues reorganizing movement even when systems attempt remaining fixed. This is the hidden instability inside permanence. Structures survive longer than their original organization. But survival is not stasis. It is transformation under pressure. This is why no system holds its shape forever, because systems exist inside environments that continuously reorganize movement underneath them. Geography changes pressure. Movement changes dependency. Accumulation changes coordination. And over time, those changes reshape the structure itself. Quietly at first, then systemically. Because systems do not remain stable permanently. They continuously reorganize to survive accumulating pressure. Some adaptations succeed temporarily. Others increase fragility underneath visible continuity. But no large structure escapes transformation indefinitely. Because pressure never stops accumulating. Movement never stops reorganizing. And alignment never remains fixed permanently. Eventually, every system reaches a point where preserving its previous form requires more pressure than the structure can continue absorbing efficiently. At that stage, transformation accelerates, not because the system suddenly failed, because the environment underneath it stopped matching the structure above it. And once enough pressure can no longer be absorbed through adaptation, the structure transforms. Not symbolically, structurally. The system becomes something else.